But at the same time, of course, there are risks involved. And that's why we are holding this webinar, so that everybody is more informed and then questions can be asked about it. Can I have the next slide, please? Looking at the business intelligence, and this is, of course, obtained by from the international development agencies. Altogether, there are 24 East Asia Pacific countries. And I'm comparing Myanmar with Vietnam, with Cambodia, Laos, and Thailand. Right now, you look at the starting a business, how difficult it is. The higher the number, the more difficult it is to start business. So starting a business in Cambodia, it ranks number 24. In terms of building things, construction, Cambodia is also the toughest country, whereas the easiest could be Thailand. Getting electricity, which is an interesting part, because not every country has constant supply of electricity. There are blackouts and there are brownouts. Vietnam takes the cake in there. In other words, they are the highest in terms of brownouts. That means a shortage of electricity supply. To register a property in a company's name or in a personal name, Cambodia is also you be quite difficult, whereas Thailand is the easiest. Getting credit when you enter a country to do business, you may want to get bank credit from the country. Laos happens to be the most difficult because there are just too few banks in there. And Vietnam is the easiest among all of them. Protecting investors. The protection of investors in Thailand, of course, is the best. Yes, can we have this? And then you have Vietnam is at 21 and Laos is at 24 in the protection of investors. Paying taxes. I know most of us don't like to pay taxes, but there's the fact of life. And you find that it's difficult, even if you want to pay taxes, it's difficult to pay in Vietnam and Laos. Cross-border trading, that means trading with the countries that surrounds a particular country. Cambodia is difficult, but Laos is even more difficult. Why? Because it is a landlocked country. There are no ports, not seaports, not airports. So airports you have, but not of international standard for moving goods. That's why Laos is difficult. Enforcement of contracts. You'll find that in Cambodia and Laos it's pretty difficult to enforce contracts, even if you have a contract at hand. What about resolving insolvency? In case somebody don't pay you and you want to take action, you'll find that in some of these countries it's difficult to be insolvent. Whether you want to be insolvent yourself and you want to close a company and start a new one, it faces difficulties. Now, where is Myanmar in all this? Right at this moment, there's no official record because it's really a greenfield country and it's a greenfield market. So therefore, it is anybody's guess. But if you ask people that have experience in those in the countries in this whole region, you will find that Myanmar may be closer to Cambodia and Laos rather than to Vietnam. And as you know, in Myanmar, it's been controlled by the military. A lot of enterprises and businesses are controlled by the military before, when it was under the military government. And now it's beginning to open up. So there's a phase of transition. But this transition is not going to be easy. All right, let's have the next slide. Let's look at this because it is a very interesting chart. And by looking at this, you know what is the potential for Myanmar in comparison to its neighbors. And of course, Malaysia is on the last column. Population-wise, Myanmar has 60.6 million. There's twice the population size of Malaysia. If you look at the other column, on the last column, MYS is Malaysia. So it is, in population size, it is similar to Thailand, which has 67.6 million. In any country, you must have the size of the population that will determine the growth. Is one of the factors. If you have a very small population, it's difficult to grow. Then the next factor for economic growth is that you look at the labor force. The labor force is 32.5%. That is a good number of people who are able to work, which usually are the ages of between 15 to 64. So the labor force is 32.5 million people. You look at Malaysia, at the last column is 11.9, and you see how Malaysia has grown. You look at Thailand, which is very similar to Myanmar, 39.6 million. So you can see that Myanmar has the potential to grow in the same way economically according to Thailand. The next area is you look at the critical mass of the urban population. Because if you have a large population but it's all over the place with distributed across a big land mass, then it doesn't have the critical focal points. But urban population tells you to a large extent how the urban population can grow and what is the level of migration from the rural countryside into the cities. Myanmar's urban population 34%, which is exactly that of Thailand. Exactly that of Thailand. The Malaysian, of course, have many cities, therefore they have a large population that is urban, 72%. And I want to look at the potential over the next 10 years. You look at the 0 to 14-year-old population of Myanmar. And in Myanmar, you have 27.1% of the population. That means almost a third of the population is 0 to 14 years old. That means these people within the next 10 years will definitely join the workforce. And I want you to compare that with Thailand, which is 19.5%. That means Thailand, the workforce, over the next 5 to 10 years is shrinking. If you have a business that is ongoing in Thailand, you need to look at these issues, whether there's potential workforce for you from 10 to 20 years onwards. And let's look at the median age. The median age, that means the most common age of the population, in Myanmar is 27. In Thailand, the median age is 34. What does that mean? That means the population is aging in Thailand compared to Myanmar. Let's look at now the next row, which is gross domestic product at purchasing power parity in terms